Hi, alligators. It's so nice to see you. So, like Mrs. Silberschlag, Miss Lulu, and Miss Jody, I'm also going to read a book to you to celebrate Week of the Young Child. And this book is it's called Rod Ratley, the Meanest Rat, and I wrote it. So here's my name, Jillian Huddleston, and it was illustrated by Chantel Coulter. And I published this book in 2011. So we can see that right up here, right here. So I dedicated it to my mom. Okay, so here we go. So Rod Ratley was the meanest rat with big front teeth and dirty hat. He was miserable, moody, and mad, and secretly, silently sad. But Rod hid it by being very, very bad. There he is in his room, all grouchy. Okay. He tricked, tackled, and teased the small. Rod had no fear, for he was tall. He laughed at the strong and hit the weak. He tortuously tormented all he could seek. Rod was king of his own throne. Not a student was left alone. He tripped the girls on the way to school and threw the boys to the swimming pool. Rod Ratley thought he was pretty cool. But Rod was worse when in class, under the eye of Miss Mary Bass. He knocked out Drew and bit Darren. He spit balls at Ann and Aaron. He turned to Chris to make faces and tied up knots in Katie's laces. He poked Diane in the waist and made George eat paper paste. Rod cheated with no looks. He even shredded picture books. That's a terrible thing to do. If they wanted to stay well, students dared not to tell. This was his schedule, black and bleak, every day from week to week. Then one day something changed. All appeared rearranged. The boys and girls had enough of mean Rod Ratley being rough. They gathered together in a group and formed the smartest, strongest troop. For strength in numbers was the key to make Rod Ratley stop and see. Chris, Katie, George, and Aaron met with Eric, Drew, and Darren. With Diane and help from Ann, in a meeting they began to create a brilliant plan. They worked for hours in a day to make mean Rod see their way. Once their plan was all done, it was time to have some fun. The next morning was the time to make mean Rod see his crime. When leaving homes at sunrise, boys and girls were in disguise, all assigned a place to be, to silently sit, wait, and see. By the time Rod left that day, their plan was well on its way. The girls hid on the way to school and tripped Rod Ratley by the pool. In the hall, boys tied his laces, and when he fell, they made faces. But it was worse when in class, under the eye of Miss Mary Bass. They glued Rod Ratley to a seat, stripped his shoes and tickled his feet. Rod laughed so hard he couldn't cheat. When lunchtime came, they were ready. All rats watched, still and steady. Within his food, they hid some bugs, spiders, worms, flies, and slugs. Rod took a bite, his face turned green. It was the worst thing ever seen. This continued throughout the day, pranks and laughter all the way. Every student had a turn to make mean Rod see and learn. They formed a circle one by one to begin to end their fun. Once in the center, Rod could see there was no place for him to flee. While the students stood and stared, Rod became a little scared. All of a sudden, Rod understood he needed to change if he could. From that day forward, on and on, mean Rod Rattley was all gone. The road to growth was brand new, yet day by day, Rod grew and grew. Now he carries girls' books to school. He plays polo in the pool. Things are better when in class, under the eye of Miss Mary Bass. Rod helps students with their work. What a change, what a quirk. When taking tests, he does well. He's working hard, you can tell. With lots of friends and lots of fun, Rod now plays with everyone. There's now a saying around school about Rod Rattley being cool. Now Rod Rattley's the nicest rat with big front teeth and dirty hat. So I want to ask you, boys and girls, is it okay to get even with a student or a friend that isn't being very nice? No. Use Kelso's choices to help that student if they're being mean, and also talk to your teachers or an adult. So I hope you enjoyed the book, and I hope you have a great week. Like Mrs. Silberschlag said, we really miss